Hey, what's up, YouTube? I've been getting a few questions online lately about my past as a girl, as living my life as a girl, and I think I'm gonna start a small sequence of videos and title them "Boy in a Girl's Body." This will obviously be part one, and I'm just gonna any questions that I get over time, I'm just gonna answer them and elaborate on them, I guess. Um, First question is from somebody who has asked me actually quite a few questions that I think were very worth answering. And their name on YouTube is Skabiri, Skabeeri. The first question that they asked me was, have I always told my parents that I was a boy? And to bluntly answer the question, I would have to say no, because up until I was like 17, 18, I didn't even think that that was an option in my life. And so therefore, because I didn't know that I could be a little boy stuck inside of a girl's body, that it didn't really play itself out in my head, and that's just not how I thought of it. I just thought that I was different. And I knew I was different. I knew that I wasn't like the boys, and I knew that I wasn't like the girls. And now that I look at it that way, I wouldn't change it for the world, because it separates me from everyone except for my trans community, which is fucking cool. I mean, honestly, like I have up to this point definitely accepted being trans as a part of my life, and I don't think that, obviously sometimes it sucks, but I'm not gonna ever think of it as a bad thing in my life, because it's part of who I am, and denying part of who you are is just not something that I abide by. I personally think that every part of me is who I am, so I'm just going to accept me for who I am, because I'd be very uncomfortable and hate my life probably if I didn't accept myself for who I was. And I honestly feel very bad for people who can't accept who they are. And I wish that I could change that in some people because that just sucks to live that way. Um, but to elaborate a little more on the question, have I always told my parents I was a boy? I definitely hinted around it, and my mom said that the first time that she, I think, questioned it, or like it might have came in her head, was when I was really little. I think I was just able to talk, and I just like started like constructing sentences. I'd probably say I was like 2, 3, 4. I don't know how old I was. She never told me. But I was sitting in the bathtub, and I said, "Mom, I have a hole down there." And I used to get really embarrassed when she told that story, but now I just think it's really funny, because I think that was probably the first time that I thought that I was different and thought that something wasn't right. Because why would I have asked that question? I mean, she had always, I'm sure she began explaining it to me. I'm a girl, this is what you have down here, boys have this, but it just must have not made sense, because my best friend growing up, and I don't think he would care, I'm just going to say his name was Nick. He was my neighbor. I think we figured out he's 52 weeks older than I was, and we've lived next door to each other our entire lives, so we grew up being best friends. Right up until it was probably like middle of high school that we kind of broke off and did our own thing. But I'm wicked sorry if he gets wicked offended about me talking about all this, but I'm sure people know, because we've talked about it before. But him and I were those two best friends that like experimented with each other and figured out, like in my perspective, I was figuring out what boys were all about, and he was figuring out what girls were all about, and we were learning about each other's body parts and all of that stuff, and just it was typical, I think, little kids trying to figure out each other. And I think that was kind of my way in, like, that was like me thinking I was different all the time, because I didn't feel different when we had our clothes on. You know what I mean? Like, we always did the same exact things. Everything was the same about us. We always rode bikes, we went skating, we played in the dirt, we four-wheeled, snowmobiled, fucking everything. You know what I mean? There was just nothing different between the two of us ever. And I bet you to this day we'd still be best friends if I had been born a boy. And like, we probably wouldn't have had the same relationship that we had while we were growing up, but I'm very sure that things would be different now. Like, we just kind of went our own ways because I got my best girlfriends and he got his best guy friends, and we just split off, you know? But I definitely think that I hinted around it a lot. I definitely told my parents more than what I can remember, I'm sure, that I felt like there was something different and that I felt like I wasn't living my life correctly. I do remember, and this is one thing I'm sure I'll remember for the rest of my life. 1st through 3rd grade, I went home crying every single day because the boys just would not stop making fun of me. And it got to the point, like, probably not even halfway through my first year of 1st grade, and I was in the nurse's office every single day. I just coming up with some excuse or another as to why I had to go home, and I had to go home. Like, that was my mindset. I just did not want to be in school. I did not want to go to recess. I didn't want to do anything because I just got made fun of. And it sucks because everybody else in my entire life, I feel like, saw this before me. And I feel like if I had realized that I was trans while I was little, I would have lived my life so differently, because now I see all these little kids whose parents accept them for being transgender, and their parents just let them dress how they're comfortable, let them grow their hair, let them cut their hair, let them use the correct pronouns to that child's preference. You know what I mean? I just feel like I could have totally lived my life in a much more positive way as a child, because 1st through 3rd grade for me, it was hell. It was hell, and I would absolutely change that if I could. I wouldn't change it if I were still born a female and could relive it, even though I was a boy trapped in a little girl's body. I wouldn't exactly change that, because that's like part of who I am now. But if I could change it in any way, shape, or form, it would just be to be able to relive it as a boy and see if my life would be different. You know what I mean? But I think that was another eye-opener to my parents, that something was different. They never actually accepted that I was a little boy trapped in a girl's body. I don't think they ever thought of it that way either. But how my mom definitely handled it better than my dad, I'm sure. She always told me that I needed to go try and find some friends who were girls and try and do things with them, like try and have fun with them. But little girls didn't do what I wanted to do as a little kid. I wanted to fucking beat each other up, and I wanted to play sports and climb on things that I wasn't supposed to climb on, while little girls usually were over kneeling in the dirt, like drawing stick people or playing with Barbies or gossiping. I don't fucking know what girls do. I never did that shit. But honestly I wish I could say that I knew that I was a little boy when I was a little girl, but I had no idea. And my mom definitely, like I said, handled it better. Aside from telling me that I had to find more girls as friends, all she really did was accepted the fact that I could be different and brought me up teaching me that no matter how different we are as people, you need to accept everybody for who they are, no matter what. And I think her bringing me up like that was her way of teaching me that it was okay to be who I was going to be when I got old enough to figure it out. And I think when it comes down to her knowledge as a parent, I mean, yes, I was her second child, but she didn't have to deal with this with her first child. So I think she went about it in a very good way, and she brought both of us up just accepting everybody for who they were. And that was definitely the best way she could have done it, because I'm definitely more comfortable now accepting me for who I am. I'm about to run out of time, but I'm going to make another video because I have a couple more questions that I'm going to answer. So hope you guys stay tuned.